Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman. Today is an exciting day because we're learning our first piece by a truly famous composer. We're going to be learning the melody Ode to Joy by Ludwig van Beethoven. Let's listen to an excerpt of this very famous melody from his last symphony, number 9. What you see right now is an orchestra. This orchestra is playing Beethoven's 9th Symphony. A symphony is a rather long piece of music composed for many musicians to play together. So let's learn how to play this famous melody by Beethoven. This melody uses a new kind of rhythm, so let's get started today at the heartbeat mat. For Ode to Joy, we need to learn a new way to draw eighth notes. You are already familiar with this version of 2 eighth notes. T, T. Let's try speaking a rhythm together. Can you point and say it with me? Ready, go. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Well, instead of drawing 2 eighth notes like this, we can also draw it like this. And it means and sounds exactly the same. We call these 2 eighth notes with a note head, a stem, and this time a flag instead of this beam. So just like before, it sounds exactly like this. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. So again, we call these flagged eighth notes. They sound exactly the same as beamed eighth notes. Just another way to draw it. Let's try another rhythm with our new flagged eighth notes. And again, that will sound the same as if we drew it this way. Let's point and say this rhythm. Ready, go. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. You may also recall that you can beam a group of more than 2 eighth notes together, like this group of 4, which takes up 2 beats, ti, 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 ta, ta. We could also draw that as flagged eighth notes, like this. This would sound exactly the same as this row. Ti, 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 ta, ta. Mr. Hoffman? Yes, Scuba? Well, why do we need another way of drawing eighth notes? Why not just use the regular way? Beams! Yeah, with beams. Great question, Scuba. The reason is that sometimes a composer may want to use just one single eighth note, not 2. And to use a beam, you have to have at least 2 eighth notes. But with flagged eighth notes, it's possible to have just 1 by itself. But wait, if you only use 1 eighth note, that would leave the other half of the beat empty. That's right. Excellent observation. And that makes room for another new kind of rhythm, the dotted quarter note. Ooh, quarter notes can have dots too? Yes, Princess. Does it get 3 beats like the dotted half note? No, not 3. You're right that the dotted half note gets 3 beats, but the dotted quarter note gets 1.5 beats. Adding a dot to a note increases the note's total value by 1/2 of whatever the note was worth before. Oh! So, regular quarter note equals 1 beat. Dotted quarter note is 1 beat plus an extra half beat. So now we can put the eighth note, flagged eighth note, in that other half of the beat. It's a perfect fit. That's right. So this dotted quarter note for 1.5 beats, together with this eighth note, which is flagged, together takes up a full 2 beats. Cool. What's this new rhythm sound like? Well, like this. Here, I'll draw it a couple of times. This rhythm would sound like this. Ta, ti, ta, ti. Notice how that dot adds that little extra half a beat of ah, ta, ti. And then in the other half of the beat, we get this single T. Ta, ti, ta, ti. Now, you guys try it with me, and everyone watching at home, try it too. Ready, go. Ta, ti, ta, ti. Let's try one more. Here's a slightly trickier one. This one would be ta, ti, ta, 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 ti, tu. Princess and Scuba, why don't you try it with me and everyone else at home as well? Ready, go. Ta, ti, ta, 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 ti, tu. Awesome. Now, let's take a look at the sheet music for Ode to Joy and see if we can find this new rhythm, the dotted quarter note with flagged eighth note. Here's our sheet music for Ode to Joy. As always, you can download and print this from our website, then you'll have your own copy to work with as well. First, let's see if we can find our new rhythm, the dotted quarter note with flagged eighth note. Can you find and point to it on this first line? If you're pointing right over here, you're correct. And in your own music at home, why don't you pause the video and see if you can find and circle any other times you find the dotted quarter note, eighth note. And then press play and we'll look at them together. So in your own music, hopefully you've also found this one as well as this dotted quarter note with the flagged eighth note. So now let's try pointing and chanting the rhythm. We'll use our rhythm words, ta, 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 or ta, ti, tu. Can you point and say the rhythms with me? Ready, go. Ta, 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 ti, tu. Now that we've explored the rhythm, let's take a look at how the notes are moving up or down on the staff so we can figure out how to play it on the piano. Ode to Joy is in the D major pentascale, and it starts with finger 3 on F sharp. But before we try to play it, can you tell me how the notes are moving? Tell me if they're stepping, skipping, or repeating one note at a time. Say start for the first note, and let's stop when you get to the last note of this measure 2. Now ready, go. Start, repeat, step up. Now keep going on your own. The correct answer is start, repeat, step up, repeat, step down, step down, step down. Now, let's keep going on to the end of the line from here. Can you do it again? Say start for this note and then continue. Start. Now go on by yourself. The correct answer is start, repeat, step up, repeat, step down, repeat. Great, let's try to play it on the piano. As I mentioned, we're in the D major pentascale for Ode to Joy. So go ahead and place your right hand finger 1 on the D a step above middle C. Finger 3 will be on F sharp. And now with how much you know about reading notes, I'd like you to take a stab at figuring out measures 1 and 2 by yourself. Just use your eyes, and if you see the notes repeat, play a repeat. If you see the notes step up, let your fingers step up. Pause the video, try to play measures 1 and 2, starting with finger 3 on F sharp, and then press play and we'll try it together. Here's what you should have figured out. Finger 3 starts on F sharp and we play. Now, will you try playing that with me? Finger 3 on F sharp, 1, 2, ready, go. Mi, mi, fa, so, so, fa, mi, re. The tricky thing is to notice where the repeats happen. It's mostly steps, but those repeats are a very important part of the melody. Press pause if you need more time to work on that. Otherwise, let's go on to measures 3 and 4. On beat 1 of measure 3, we step down to Do or D. So starting here on this D, I'd like you to pause the video again and see if you can figure out measures 3 and 4. Then press play and we'll try it together. Don't forget the ta-ti rhythm. Press pause to work on those measures on your own, then press play to go on. Here's what you should have figured out. Do, do, re, mi, mi, re, re. Now let's try to play that together. Starting on do, ready, go. Do, do, re, mi, mi, re, re. Pause the video if you need extra time to work on that. If you played it great, then let's try putting all 4 measures together. From the start, we have mi, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re. Pause the video and work on putting measures 1 through 4 together, then press play to go on. Now, in a later lesson, we'll learn this left-hand part, but today we're just focusing on the treble staff or right-hand part. So let's go on to line 2 now, and I'd like you to look carefully at each note and tell me if it's the same as line 1 or different, or some of both. What do you notice? If you look very carefully, and it's important to check every single note, you'll notice same, same, same. Here, it's different. What's different? Up here, as we go from measure 3 to measure 4 across the bar line, you'll notice a repeat. But what happens here? Aha, this time it's a step down. That subtle change may be easy to miss if you're not watching carefully. That's why I always say to check every single note. You can't assume that because these 3 measures are identical, that that's going to be true for the last measure as well. Sometimes composers like to shake things up. And here we have a slight change. We step down, repeat. Let's try that on the piano. Let's start here on measure 7, which is the 3rd measure of line 2, which starts here on do, 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 re, mi, and then as we come across the bar line, remember to step down this time, re, do, do. So all together we get do, do, re, mi, do, do. Now your turn. So let's go back to the start of line 2 now and put it all together. Mi, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. Now it's your turn. Pause the video to work on line 2 on your own. Don't forget the one note that changes. Be very careful there as you go across the bar line from measure 7 to 8. Remember the step down this time, which used to be a repeat. Now we're stepping down. Pause to work on line 2, then press play to go on. Now we're ready to look at line 3. Is this the same or different from lines 1 and 2? This is an entirely different kind of idea. In music, we like to use capital letters to show the form of a piece. We could call this first line A, and the second line, because it's almost exactly the same as the first line, we could call it A with a little mark there that we call prime. A prime tells us that it's mostly the same with a slight variation. This line, if you look at the notes and how they're moving and the rhythms, is completely different. So we'd call this line B. Now, can you tell me the steps, skips, and repeats for these first 2 measures? Say start for the first note, then keep going on your own. Go. Start. The correct answer is start, repeat, step up, skip down, step up, step up, step up, step down, skip down. I like to mark where there are skips, sometimes with a little line, and maybe I'll put the interval there, because that helps me remember when I'm playing to watch out, to make sure I skip down there, skip of a third from mi to do, from mi to do. Now let's keep going and saying the step, skips, repeats together. Go. Start, step up, step down. Say it with me. Step down, step up. This time there are no skips. And then here, this is called a half rest. You'll recall that a quarter rest gets 1 beat. A half rest gets 2 beats of rest. And instead of drawing 2 quarter rests, musicians like to save time, so we have this symbol that means 2 beats of rest. So we have 1, 2, and then on 3, 4, the melody doesn't go in the right hand, it actually jumps down to the left hand. So we'll actually use our left hand today just for this one note. We're learning the melody line, ta, ti, ti, ta, 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 tu. Our left hand will help out with the melody right here on beats 3, 4. You'll notice the left hand has a half rest here to give beats 1 and 2. The left hand rests while the right hand plays, and then the left hand plays while the right hand rests. Let's try playing line 3 on the piano. Let's work on line 3 together. Can you tell me the letter name of the first note the right hand plays on line 3? If you said E, you're correct. What finger plays E? Tell me the finger number. If you said finger 2, you're correct. So we'll start with finger 2 on E, and we play re, re, mi, and then we skip down to do. Re, re, mi, do. Now you try. Good. Now let's look at the rhythm for the next measure. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Can you sing that with me? Ready, go. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Now to play it, we once again start on an E, ta, then 2 step ups, ti, ti, then step down, skip down. All together, ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Now you try. Good. Now take a look at this next measure and tell me if it's the same or different from the previous measure. It looks the same, but hopefully you looked very carefully, and hopefully I've trained you to check every note, because you'll notice this last note is a step down instead of a skip down. That's very important. In fact, in your own music, you might want to circle that note, because in this measure, we skip down, and then if you're not careful, you might do that again. This time you have to step down, step up, and then our left hand has to come in to play this A with finger 1. That's part of the melody. This is the only note we'll learn for the left hand today. All the other notes we'll learn in a later lesson. So let's put all of line 3 together. It will sound like this. Go ahead and have your left hand ready. I'll demonstrate once for you. We have re, re, mi, do, re, mi, fa, mi, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, re, so. And that's low so for the left hand. Now pause the video and work on line 3, being very careful where the skips are, where the steps are, then press play to go on. Now let's check out the right hand part for line 4. Can you tell me if this is the same as our B or A prime or A? Check every note. If you look carefully, you'll see it matches note for note our line 2, which we've called A prime. And that brings us to the end of this section. Remember, this is an arrangement for piano of Beethoven's symphony, which has violins and trumpets and oboes. This is a simplified version, just a section of the full symphony. But this section has the form A, B, A. And a couple of those A's, of course, have slight variants at the end. Now let's put all 4 lines together. Let's play the entire melody, these 4 lines put together for Ode to Joy. I'll play the right hand part, and you're welcome to play along with me if you'd like to challenge yourself, or if this is your first time and you'd like to just listen, that's okay too. I'll count 4 beats, then we'll start with finger 3 on F sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. might have noticed I started with just my right hand. I probably should have had my left hand already ready from the beginning. I had to sneak it up there on line 3. I recommend you have it there from the start so you don't have to be like me and sneak it up there last minute. All right, now, last thing I want to look at with you are the dynamics. You may recall that dynamics tell you how loud or how soft to play. Dynamics can make music so much more exciting if you'll use them. Now, this is a joyful song. It's called Ode to Joy after all. So as you're playing it, make sure you have that joyful feeling inside and that you're playing it joyfully. And so that's why the piece starts with this forte mark. Remember that fancy F means forte. You're going to play it with lots of joy. Now, when we get to line 3, just for fun, sometimes joy can be quiet too, like an excited whisper, Christmas morning. So we're going to get soft. But then you'll see this symbol, C-R-E-S-C dot, stands for crescendo. And a crescendo is to gradually, a little bit at a time, get louder, 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 louder. So, not all at once. We're going to start piano, then crescendo, a little bit at a time. By the end of the line, we're going to be quite strong, and then the last line is forte again. Those dynamics can make this piece so fun and exciting to listen to. So once you feel like you know the notes, start paying attention and adding in the dynamics as well. And finally, as you're practicing, don't forget to be careful on these new rhythms. You have to stretch out that dotted quarter note, ta, ti, tu. Don't rush through them, ta, ti, tu. Remember that dot stretches out that note extra long. Ta, 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 ti, tu. Ta, ti, tu. Stretch that note out, and that makes that rhythm really exciting. Great job today learning to play the melody of Ode to Joy. Don't forget, we also learned about dotted quarter notes and flagged eighth notes. That's right, guys. And we learned about what a symphony is. It was a big day. Thanks, as always, for watching and learning with me. Happy practicing, and see you next time. Presenting the Symphony of Birds performing Ode to Joy, conducted by me. Tweet, 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 squawk, squawk, tweet, 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 squawk, squawk, tweet, 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 squawk, squawk. Thank you.